Hi guys, this is Miss Burkles,
Greetings, you guys. This is Mrs. Klein.
and we are starting in lesson 19 with the political development of Imperial China. Our guiding question for this lesson is which method of selecting officials led to the best leaders for China?
All right. And as always, you guys, there's some vocabulary terms, and there's actually a lot this time. They are aristocracy, bureaucracy, civil service examination, dynasty, emperor, imperial, meritocracy, and warlord.
All right, starting off in the introduction on page 267. Welcome to Imperial China. Historians divide Chinese history into periods ruled by dynasties or ruling families. You will learn about China's political development under several dynasties from 220 to 1644 CE. China was first unified under an emperor in the 3rd century BCE. From the beginning, emperors needed help to rule.
Over time, Chinese emperors tried several methods of finding qualified people to administer their government. One method was to rely on the class of wealthy families. Emperors like Han Wudi, however, preferred to choose officials for their merit or worth. During the Han Dynasty, candidates for government jobs had to prove their knowledge and ability by passing strict tests. As a result, a class of scholar officials evolved. Under later emperors, this system developed into a rule by officials of proven merit.
In the 13th century CE, a nomadic people called the Mongols built a great empire in Asia. Toward the end of the century, the Mongols conquered China. Under Mongol emperors, government officials in China were foreigners. In this lesson, you will explore how changes in the government affected medieval China. You will also learn which of these government methods were successful in improving medieval China.
All right, moving on, you guys, to section 1, which is the government of Imperial China. In 221 BC, Prince Zhang, the head of the state of Qin, became the first Chinese ruler to claim the title of emperor, adopting the name Qin Shi Huangdi, which means the first emperor of Qin. From that time on, China usually had an imperial form of government headed by an emperor or sometimes an empress.
China's imperial dynasties. Chinese emperors named a relative, often a son, to become emperor after their deaths. In this way, they established a dynasty or a line of rulers from the same family. From ancient times, Chinese rulers based their right to govern on the mandate of heaven, the idea that heaven had chosen a particular dynasty to rule. The Chinese believed that heaven supported the dynasty throughout the emperor's reign as long as the emperor ruled well. Natural disasters such as floods, famines, plagues, and earthquakes were interpreted as signs that heaven was displeased.
All right, so you guys will probably remember that mandate of heaven from last year in 6th grade, because I think that's definitely something that comes up. All right, moving on, China's breakup and reunification. The Han Dynasty held power in ancient China for more than 400 years and ushered in a golden age of expansion and prosperity. Like earlier emperors, the Han governed China with the help of a large bureaucracy of government officials. As long as the bureaucracy was skilled, honest, and hardworking, China prospered. By 220, however, corrupt or dishonest relatives and servants of the emperor had seized control of the government.
The result was disastrous. High taxes plunged many families into poverty, and workers were forced to labor for long periods of time on public projects. Additionally, bandits attacked farmers in the countryside. All of this turmoil led warlords to oppose the emperor and fight against one another, causing the government to become weak and unable to protect farmers.
All right, small farmers suffered because they were required to pay taxes and give half of everything they produced to their landlords. Finally, the farmers rebelled because they believed that the Han dynasty had lost the mandate of heaven. No new dynasty took over from the Han, so China broke apart into separate kingdoms, just as Europe did after the fall of Rome.
In 589, the northern state of Sui conquered the south and reunified China. The Sui dynasty created a new central government and ruled for 29 years, but by 617, heavy taxes led to unrest and a struggle for power.
In 618, a general named Li Huan declared himself emperor and established the Tang dynasty. Tang rulers built on the accomplishments of the Sui dynasty, strengthened the central government, and increased Tang influence over outlying areas.
Under the Tang, a unified China enjoyed a period of wealth and power that lasted nearly 300 years.
Okay, moving on to section 2, aristocracy, the Tang dynasty. Like earlier emperors, Tang rulers relied on a large bureaucracy. Officials collected taxes, oversaw building and irrigation projects, managed the army, and enforced the laws.
Before the Han Dynasty, emperors chose members of the aristocracy to help them govern. These people were born into noble families of wealthy and powerful landowners. To improve the bureaucracy, Han Han emperors created civil service examinations in which candidates took long tests to qualify for office. The tests had questions on Chinese classics, poetry, and legal and administrative issues. Mainly, they were based on the works of Confucius, China's great philosopher and teacher. This began the system under which a class of scholar officials ran the government.
All right, later, Tang emperors also used civil service exams to fill some government positions. Early in the dynasty, however, emperors chose aristocrats for most high level jobs. Even the civil service exams favored the aristocrats. As a result, aristocrats held almost all offices in the early part of the Tang dynasty.
After peasant rebellions and battles between generals ended the Tang dynasty in 907, China split apart once again. Beginning in 960, the Suang dynasty rose.
Mhm.
Okay, Suang. The Suang. Okay, section 3, meritocracy. The Suang dynasty. The Suang relied on civil service exams and made them available to far more candidates, creating a meritocracy.
A new school of thought known as Neo Confucianism influenced the exams. This new teaching blended the teachings of Confucius with elements of Buddhism and Taoism, two traditional religions in China. I think you guys remember, you probably learned about them last year. Under the Sung, I think is how you say that, people from the lower classes gained the ability to become scholar officials since they could attend the new state supported schools and continue on to the university.
The exams were organized to prevent cheating. Candidates were locked in a small room for several days.
Dang.
Only a small proportion of candidates passed the difficult exams. Those who passed had to wait a few years before their first appointment. When it came, it was for a job far from their hometown so that they could not give unfair advantages to their family and friends.
It's actually kind of an interesting thing. All right, despite the challenges, people were happy to receive such respected positions. As government officials, they also enjoyed certain privileges, such as being excused from taxes and military service.
Section 4, Government by Foreigners, the period of Mongol rule. In the 13th century, the Mongols conquered almost all of Asia. The Mongol leader, Kublai Khan, took the title of Emperor of China and called his dynasty the Yuan dynasty. For nearly 100 years, from 1279 to 1368, China was under Mongol rule.
All right, Kublai Khan ended the system of civil service exams because he did not believe that Confucian learning was needed for government jobs, nor did he want to rely on Chinese people to run his government. To fill important positions, he chose other Mongols whom he felt he could trust. Some of these people were his relatives.
Unfortunately, there weren't enough Mongols to fill every job, so they were forced to appoint trusted foreigners to government positions, even some Europeans.
All right. Without the examination system, however, there was a shortage of capable administrators. In 1315, the Mongols restored the exam system, although they set limits on who could take the exam, favoring Mongol and other non-Chinese candidates.
As time passed, fighting among Mongol leaders weakened the government of China. In the 1350s and 1360s, rebels rose up against them. In 1368, the Mongol dynasty collapsed and the Chinese re-established their own government under the Ming dynasty.
All right, finally, Section 5, the revival of the civil service system. Under Ming emperors, civil service exams were again used to fill government positions. This system lasted into the 20th centuries. In many ways, the exam system served China well.
The civil service system allowed poor men who were ambitious and hardworking the opportunity to be government officials. At the same time, it ensured that officials were trained and talented, not merely rich or related to the emperor.
Yet, China's civil service system may also have stood in the way of progress. The exams did not test understanding of science, mathematics, or engineering. People with such knowledge were therefore kept out of government.
Additionally, the bureaucracy became set in its ways, and its instability to adapt contributed to the fall of the Ming in 1644.
All right, here we go, you guys. We have our lesson summary. Imperial government. In 221 BCE, a prince of Qin became the first Chinese emperor under the name Qin Shi Huangdi. For more than 1,500 years, China was ruled under an imperial government by a series of dynasties.
Aristocracy. Early emperors chose officials from the aristocracy. The Han tried to improve government by creating a civil service examination system. Candidates for government jobs had to pass tests based mostly on Confucian learning. Under the Sui and Tang dynasties, civil service exams continued, but aristocrats filled most government jobs under the Tang.
Meritocracy. Rulers of the Song dynasty used civil service exams to create a meritocracy of scholar officials.
Government by foreigners. Mongol emperors from outside of China relied on family members, friends, and trusted foreigners to help run the government.
All right, finally, civil service system restored. Under the Ming, the Chinese restored their civil service system. Bureaucrats became set in their ways, and innovation was not encouraged.
All right, you guys, that was lesson 19, the political development of Imperial China. Again, we have that guiding question: which method of selecting officials led to the best leaders for China?
And I think you guys, I'd probably be playing that vocabulary flip card game so that you get real familiar with these vocabulary words, right? Aristocracy, bureaucracy, civil service examination, dynasty, emperor, imperial, meritocracy, and warlord.
All right, see you later.
Signing off.